Well, hello. I think this is all working now. We gotta adjust something on the volume levels for some reason. Well, get rid of that. I think this is all working now. I think I had a little bit of an echo going on. But
I think it might have been me. Hey, what's happening?
So welcome everybody. If you're catching this on the rewind or if you're here live in the chat with us, I know it's going to be a nice, calm, chill evening with coffee and a comic tonight in the book club. So many people are out doing their lives tonight, but this is going to be great. I'm glad you're here, Mark. I'm glad we got a couple others up in the chat that's going to be able to chime in here and there, and we'll go from there. But I need to adjust a few things on my screen because this just isn't working right for some reason. Now I'm going to look all washed out because it's all bright lights, but it's all good. So let me actually just get into this and introduce the book that we are doing. Nita Hawes Nightmare Blog. I believe this is cover B if I remember right, but I'm probably wrong on that. It's probably cover C. That's a great one. It's funny because the one that you got, cover A, it looks exactly like the retail variant that I almost sold as a regular copy, which I guess is a special variant that I didn't even know I was getting in that the distributor had sent. So it's kind of cool. But this, let's just get into it. Two things I want to bring up in this book club to talk about to start to kind of get the thing going. Mark, if you could go over 3 things in this read. One thing that throughout the entire book that kept nagging at you, irritated you, maybe you didn't like as much, or something that kind of bothered you. One thing that you actually really loved throughout the entire book and what you enjoyed. And then one panel that stuck out the most to you and why.
Nita Hawes, I think that's Nita Hawes. Is that how you pronounce it?
Nita Hawes? Yeah, I think it was short for something, if I remember right.
Donita, I think, is her first name, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, Donita.
But Nightmare Blog. So what nagged at me throughout this first issue felt a little bit disjointed compared to some of Rodney Barnes' his other writings. This one seemed a little bit in pieces that didn't quite connect yet. After having read the second issue, things come together more, but this first one felt a little bit less connected.
Right.
But what I loved about it is Rodney Barnes, man, that dude he can write. He's a hell of a writer. But this excites me to open this book up is Jason Shawn Alexander's art. He can draw horror, man, and that brings me to what you said, the panel this panel right here.
Yeah.
Saw that panel, and I screamed out, "Oh shit! This is gonna be good right there." That is dope, man. And then again, Jason Shawn, his art, man, just excites me so much for the horror genre. Like, how do I get that in there? Is that glare? Like these freaking like devil beasties jumping out of that dude's mouth and just mowing down. Yeah, I think you answered the questions. I really like Rodney Barnes. I think the dude can write. So this is a spinoff of Philadelphia. And Nita Hawes, the main character in this, is the ex-girlfriend of the dude from Philadelphia. And
you just made something click.
Boom.
Dude, okay. All right.
So she actually mentions his name, I think, in the very beginning of this. Like,
yeah.
Okay. So I dig this world that Barnes is creating because I went and subscribed to his Substack as well because I love his writing, and he's got 2 other comics he's publishing on there with Jason Shawn Alexander. One of them is Johnny Gatlin, which is a basically a mercenary for hell kind of a thing. And the other one is, if you remember in Philadelphia, what was called Elysium Gardens was always like that backup story. That's now become its own comic on his Substack. So he's expanding this horror world that he's creating, and I dig it. And he's doing it with Jason Shawn Alexander. His art just so exciting.
Dude, okay. No, those are 3 solid starting points. Before I get into mine, I just want to shout out a few people in the chat here. John, Collect 'em all, Die Trying, popped in. He was saying, yeah, she was the girlfriend of Sangasta.
Sangstrom.
Sangstrom? Oh, that's right. Sangster. Okay.
Yeah, maybe it was something like that. Yeah, something like that.
Because I remember reading into this for a second. I was like, did they just write gangster? I had to take off my glasses and look. I was like, wait, okay, Sangster. And then Dakota has popped in as well. Sheena is popping in to say hello. So welcome, HKYF420. Super great to see you. I know you're going to pop around to some other chats tonight. You told me that earlier. But yeah, so quickly, everything you just said, I think we're in agreement on good and bad, even to the point of artistic preference. So real quick, I always forget to do this, and I need to get better at this. So for those that haven't read this or want to read this or have read this but aren't really into comics or just don't know, I like to try to give shout outs to those that deserve it. So the writer of Nita Hawes Nightmare Blog is Rodney Barnes. And Rodney Barnes has written a lot of different things within the comic realm for a while.
He actually does a lot of stuff in Hollywood too, I believe.
Yeah, no, he does. And then we got artist. The primary artist on this was Patrick Reynolds and then Jason Shawn Alexander, which amazing, great work. So those are some people that I actually wanted to at least shout out. And I want to give more credit to writers because I don't think writers anywhere get enough credit. I mean, we look at Hollywood, for example, right? Like, who gets the credit for the Matrix movie? Keanu Reeves. Not knocking on Keanu. I love the dude. He's a great actor. He does a lot of work. But why don't we ever celebrate the writers more often? They're the ones that gave us the story in the first place. So I like to kind of throw that out a little bit more. What did John say? The demons look very Lovecraft. They do. So I wanted to point out a couple things to tie in there. So you said it kind of felt a little discombobulated, I guess would be the word that I would utilize when trying to read through. Because it took me a while. I had to read through a few of these. And I got to admit, when it came to Philadelphia, I've jumped around with Philadelphia. I haven't read everything. So I'll miss 1 or 2 in a row, then I'll skip over to something else. And it hasn't been something I've been following 100%. So knowing this was from the same world as Philadelphia, I was a little bit lost on a lot of things. So when you said, oh, yeah, it was her ex-girlfriend, that's when I was like, oh, that makes sense. But along with that, I think what they could have done to make this tie in a little bit more is when we're switching from scene to scene, like this first, I didn't realize, wait, so this is her, this is Nita, but the way that they made it seem is like she was a cop. And I was like, but she's not a cop. I thought she was a teacher. And so I got confused. And the reason why I thought that is because in the next panel, she's like searching through this alleyway with a gun. And I'm like, okay, is this a detective? And the way that it read, it seemed like it was going that way. So that was a little disconcerting. But to tie in with some of my favorite aspects, well, you said it, this panel right here. Yeah. That's my favorite panel. Yeah, that's but this goes back to what I disliked about this was as you're reading this, right? Let's start from the beginning. Like you open it up, you start reading. It starts taking you down this path a little bit like, oh, sketchy, what she's doing. She's getting a little like scared. And then right when you flip this page open, what's the first thing you see? Well, you see the monster. I really wish, because the way that this whole panel reads out in her eyes, I wish this actually would have been on the next page. Because I think that would have gave a lot more of a like they should have just took this page and made it all black or something and made it like, oh no, and then she's like scared or just full of her eyes or something. So then when you flip the page, you see this monster creature. That's just one of my own little personal, because they did it at the very end. I'll just quickly show that real quick. I think they did a good job with this. When we get to that, the dude works at the mental clinic, he's walking through the hallways. Right. And he's like, uh-oh, going back into that room that he's all terrified of, hearing the singing. And then, boom, like scary as shit. Like some dude on the ceiling, like his head rotated around. Super creepy. Patricia Benson, welcome. I don't know what that Vash Tech means, but okay, cool. But yeah, that's some of my. And going back to the part that I wasn't quite a fan of is when you're reading through it, it's hard to decipher what's past, what's present, whose storyline are we on? Are we on the detective storyline? Are we on Nita Hawes? Like some of that was a little discombobulating. You had to really kind of focus. If you're just trying to skim through it and kind of read, you're going to get extremely lost with the storyline. But other than that, those are some of the aspects that I really really enjoyed and didn't quite.
Yeah, this first issue didn't seem as tight as, say, the first issue of Philadelphia. I think the second issue pulls things much more cohesively together. But yeah, I'm with you. I think that's some really good insight you shared there.
Yeah. The last page is the best effect, says Dakota. Look up, boom, monster on the sun. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's definitely a something to be said about. The other thing about the storyline or just the writing in general, like I did love, like, I know I'm being a little contradictory. So in the first couple pages, you know, you're hearing the narrative through Anita's voice, essentially. And then as you flip past the monster scene, you get to this next panel. I got Nita's voice still in my head. And so when I read the first one, I get all lost because realizing, oh, wait, halfway down this page, I start realizing that's the demon talking, or that's the, you know, scary dude talking. And I didn't quite notice that they changed the lettering to distinguish the difference of it. And so I was kind of a little off put on that. But other than that, like you showed that one already too, but I got to show it again just because it's so good, man.
That was just insane. Yeah.
So good. But it goes into like just the story and how they describe it within, like, why this demon likes to not just kill humans, but like torture them and make them feel their pain. It's insane. What's John saying here? John brings up, I love how the comic started with the demon's explanation of God's creation of life and feeling of neglect and defacing God himself. Yeah. No, that's such a good interpretation on the idea of there's a, I can't remember the philosopher right now that talked about God and the idea of like the cruelty that he brings on the world without maybe realizing it, or he does realize it because of just letting us to our own whim. And if the demons came in like this is exactly kind of the statement that would be brought up. Oh man. But I mean, there's so much to this that needs unpacking. Like, I got to ask you, Mark, because I got a little lost within this and trying to discuss this section where I foreshadowed the events when she was, when Nita was at her school and one of her coworkers came up to her and like, hey, yo, like, are you coming out with us tonight? Oh, right. And she was like, nah, it's Jason's birthday. And so when she was like, it's Jason's birthday, you know, I knew she wasn't going to go out. And I knew from then Jason is probably some ghost, some dead dude. Like she's going to go home and mourn, doesn't want to go out because it's like, you know, but I didn't know the full story behind the fact that it was her brother. And so when we did get to that scene where she did go back and she was sitting at the table with him, you know, initially you see her and him together. I'll bring that panel up real quick. And, you know, to most, you probably think, oh, she's there with some little kid, you know, whoever it is, and it's her brother or whatever. I knew right away that he wasn't either. Well, I don't know this, actually. I don't know if he was really there in demon form or if he was just a ghost and a figment of her imagination. I'm assuming it's a figment of her imagination, just remembering the loss of her brother. But what's your take on that? What are you
it's I believe or my just, and I love, well, so I'm just going to refer back to the page real quick. Again, what you showed here, I like, so notice this panel here where you don't really see his full head. And then down here, you've got some blood dripping down on the plate.
Yeah.
And here's the page turn reveal that you're kind of talking about. And Homeboy's got a bullet hole in his head. Right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's where that's, coming from. So I thought that was a pretty cool the way they kind of revealed that. But I believe he is actually present because is it in this issue? It is in this issue.
It is.
Where he comes and wakes her up and says, hey, someone sent a message on the blog. So she gets up and goes and looks and stuff. And that part made me feel that he's there. Some of the other comments he made, like, it was debatable as it could go one way or the other. But the fact was like, hey, someone hit the blog. I think he's there because I think there's maybe it's in this one or the second one where they talk about a bunch of demons. Well, it kind of talks about here where he says, he died. And then he saw a bunch of demons fleeing towards a light, basically. And he followed them. He came through. And he came through to the material world and saw these demons basically proliferating all throughout our world. And so I think he was sort of like these demons are now sort of infesting into people and possessing them and doing whatever demons like to do. He's one of them. And he's just kind of hanging out with his sister instead of, causing havoc or whatever. So I think that's kind of.
I think that's what John is saying here too. He's like, question: did Nita's brother Jason go to hell and return? There's a panel of him overlooking Baltimore on fire. Was that a depiction of hell? So that's something we don't know, I think, John, if it was hell or not, but it could be a form of hell or maybe purgatory of sorts where the demons are coming from. But I think that does clarify a little bit on how you're saying, because I still think in these original scenes where she's sitting at the table with him, I don't think he's there then. I think it's still kind of a figment. And then when he does wake her up, I think he is there, but as the demon boy or, but still not quite a demon yet.
Right.
Sorts. But yeah, that I mean, that's some parts that maybe they'll answer that question more as we progress in the series. I don't want to give too much spoilers on book number 2 because I know there's a lot of people that haven't read that yet, but I think that still hasn't quite answered the story or the question to that yet. But yeah, I do think he is in there. But I think that initial part, but then, I'm thrown off too, because even in that section where you just showed this, she's got blood dripping on her shirt.
Right.
So that's kind of weird. Like, why would he be there? And then suddenly, like, well, I gotta go. Like, does he just show up randomly at certain times and then gets taken back and then has to go hang out with the demons? But then, if that's the case, why was he able to come to her bedside so easily to say, "Hey, you got a message on your blog. You should go check it out." So
yeah, I imagine that'll be revealed through through a few more issues. Just to bring something, so this is from the Johnny Gatlin, which is one of the other off books that's in this world, and basically this takes place from the perspective of a dude in hell, and the demons. There's multiple devils, and basically they're saying, that our job, we want to go through and we're going to lay waste to the world of men and rule it, all that kind of jazz. So anyways, so he's kind of tying in what we just saw with the brother and seeing the demons fly forth into Baltimore and all that.
Okay. No, that clarifies a lot of it. One section, like the storyline that starts right after that, after she's like screaming no about her dead brother, is going back to West Baltimore 2 years prior to the event, or to the actual event of her brother dying. And I gotta say, dude, like the impact that this comic shows in the reality of, like, let's just say inner city gang, inner city, just obviously it seems like what happened with the drug deal went wrong or something, but I'm going to show it. Graphic, if anybody is watching this kid. So she's obviously reminiscing, 2 years ago in West Baltimore. It's like these two dudes obviously get an argument. What I just take, being, well, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like some kind of possible drug deal going bad or some argument happened. And he's just chilling in the back. And then just boom, and just the graphic nature of seeing this kid get gunned down. Like, if that doesn't impact you as somebody, like, I know I read a lot of comics, I know I see a lot of graphic stuff, and I've been through a lot, but just the idea of that still, it's brutal,
I like
man.
Those panels were really good, but I think what I really like about those panels too is her in the backdrop. I think that I think this helps make it, kind of sells it a little, makes it more that impactful. Human aspect of it, I guess. Reading some of Ronnie Barnes's other stuff, man, he really knows how to write street level kind of stuff going on. He does a really good job of capturing that in both dialogue and picture and stuff. And obviously working with Jason Shawn Alexander, he does a damn good job with that too. Those faces, like the face of that Jason looking up from there.
Dude. Okay. John's got a little segment. He just popped in. So it gets you.
I've seen that.
It reminds me of like a lot of the stuff and the issues we're having in inner city situation with all these kids dying now. Anyway, don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But so John says, so she initially is a teacher of parapsychology. So would it be easier for her to see these demons and the paranormal, or just a way to cope mentally with the loss of her parents and her brother? Wow, dude. Okay. So you brought up two things that I was thinking here. And I love this second time he says, she becomes a Ghostbuster? Seems like it. So, number one, I just want to bring up real quick. She's a teacher of parapsychology. She had two of her parents die like 9 years ago. And then her younger brother she started taking care of was gunned down 2 years prior. How does she have the mental capacity to even be a teacher? I'm not saying people can't do it, but I mean, she went through some stuff, yo. And like to go through that and then still be able to just like pull herself up by the bootstraps and go get a pretty professional type job to be able to teach students and do like that. That shows a lot of credit and strength of a character that I admire. And it's pretty awesome. But you're right, John. Like, is she teaching parapsychology? And because of that, she knows a little bit more about that realm. And so she's able to kind of like tie in and tap into these, I guess, demons a little bit easier. Good question.
I think that's definitely part of it. I think it also perhaps, I think, again, I don't want to go into the second one where she's talking with her detective friends.
Right.
But it helps her to also kind of deal with her own traumas, by helping other people manage theirs,
Yeah. I mean, I think, well, here's an interesting stat that I think, and maybe I'll get corrected in the comments on this or something, but if I remember right, reading something somewhere showing that a lot of psychologists, a lot of therapists, they typically get into the field of therapy because they have their own demons and they want to understand why they're feeling this way or how they can get better. And that gives them more empathetic elements to help others as well. And I think that's possibly part of the light in it, which, I mean, if that's really the case, and Barnes actually took it to that level, like that just shows the intelligence in his writing and who he is as a writer too. So, but going beyond that section, getting into well, actually, I want to go back because there's a trope throughout this entire book where the demon dude is like singing, and I don't know if anybody else did this. I'm just going to pull up like this first one here and try to read it if I can get the, I'm not going to be able to get there we go. Come on, girl, give me that thing. Ain't got no money, but Lord, can I sing? Did anybody else try to Google these lyrics but me?
No, I didn't. Did you find anything?
No, but
okay.
I did. I was like, dude, who is it? Like, because if there is a song out there like this, I want to listen to it. You know what I mean? Like, I was hoping that like maybe it was like an old Muddy Water song that I hadn't heard before, or some other kind of like something. And so I did. I started Googling like the lyrics to see if there was any other songs that had those lyrics, and No, I mean, Barnes just came up with this on his own. He was like, I'm just going to make a song in a comic. And then, so now I'm like, I'm going to have to, you know, take his lyrics and come up with my own jam. But what did you guys think about the, that kind of little, is it called a trope? Something that is continuous through a.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's a trope. I know there's a couple other words for it, but what did you think about that trope to kind of,
I really
visual perspective of it?
I like the singing. Whenever you've got somebody who's like committing like massive murder and mutilations and they're singing, that's just creepy, right? I mean, that's
Right?
never a good sign. So that, and then going back to this panel that you had shown right here, and he's like exuberant. Like he is just so feeling this, and he's feeling good about what he's doing here, doing all this stuff. I mean, look at some of these panels, man.
Oh yeah,
Monkey, how do you do this? Monkey dude, whatever, biting that guy's neck and eyeballs popping out and whatever. Like, and he's this is so hard. He's loving it, you know. Yeah. So he's singing along, and that just adds to the creep factor for me, you know. And then it got me thinking, especially after I saw the cover for issue 2, that Robert Johnson looking cover. I'm like, oh, this has got to tie in with something like that, because there's definitely some blues lyrics.
Here's issue number 2. I believe A and C. I think this is A and C covers, but yeah, that Robert Johnson look and just that demon eyes, and I love it. It's super awesome. But it's one of those things where, like, I don't know, because you know there was speculation I heard that they were going to do something with Philadelphia within the realm of maybe a series or some kind of like television thing, and I don't know how true that's going to come out to play. But this 100% makes me feel like I can envision how they would do this and have some dudes singing as, you know, the montage is going on, killing somebody or going through that. And it reminds me of, was it Kill Bill? It wasn't singing, but it was the whistling effect that old dude was doing throughout the show. It was, God, I can't even do that whistle anymore. I think it was Kill Bill, if I remember right, where it was like that the nurse was whistling.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, well, the trope of that, like there's even like if you go to Good, the Bad, the Ugly, it's got that signature sound. If you look at Once Upon a Time in the West, you know, Chuck Bronson and the harmonica, you know, there's that was always played right before massive violence happened. There's always, like, in certain modes of storytelling, right, that there's certain notes and certain music that sort of like signifies that, oh, something's about to happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's such a great aspect of this. Just want to say hello to Caitlin Engel, who just popped in. She says, speaking of songs, enjoying the occasional dog squeaker background music. Also loving the subtle connections with stuff like Collecting Knowledge, Die Trying. Dude, absolutely. And then, hey, She Spawn popped in to say hello. Hopefully you're having a great night back on the chilly East Coast. But yeah, like when they do little things like that, like that's where my head goes when I start reading through this and I see that. I envision what it would be like in like a more live action sequencing, or even just in real life. Like, just can you imagine that in real life? Like, suddenly you start hearing some creepy singing. Yeah, I'm out of there. I'm gone. Like, geez.
But especially if there's like a kid, like a kid's choir starts singing, I'm gone.
I think it was a Nightmare on Elm Street that got me scared of like kids and singing, like that whole like Freddy's coming for you kind of thing. It's creepy, and that's why I think they could do a really good job with this one, especially with her brother. And like, even like, I know he's supposed to be kind of like this good dude, but I don't trust him, and he's still kind of creeping me out a little bit.
The little Jason Ghost Demon guy.
Yeah. So I think that's some of it that's a little off-putting, but I do love how Barnes, moving forward into the book. I'm going to skip over some of the part of him going into the demon section, but going to the worker at the is it a mental like institute? I didn't figure out exactly.
I think that character is just in a coma, so I think it's just there it is right there, assisted living facility.
Did I miss that panel? Where am I
known as Happy Acres. Of course it is known as Happy Acres.
Right. How did I miss that? Oh, that was the one. This is on the panel before that's why. Okay. Now that makes sense. So getting into that storyline and this dude, I thought it was kind of a really cool timing because sometimes like as you're doing like a character development of sorts and trying to figure out how am I going to tie this section in with the next creepy section, who's going to be the players that tie in that, and they don't just do some random like janitor dude at some like assisted living set. They actually do it like a mini background into this dude. Is that a corgi? I didn't know you had a corgi.
No, that was my healer.
Oh, okay. Oh, that makes sense. He just ran away.
My healer gets worked up in order to get my Weimaraner all in business, and then my healer comes back and sits down while he does all the hoopla.
Oh, real quick, Caitlin says, kids laughing or singing is cute unless it's night and you don't have kids. Yes. Exactly. And then John is like, Fred Krueger's song still gives me nightmares, right? Dude, it's intense. But where I was going with this was, so the dude working here, it is kind of indicating that he's some kind of a janitor, would be my guess, right? Like he's mopping the floors, he's kind of checking in on stuff. But they don't just make him, oh, he's just some random janitor. He actually gets into a little bit of this dialogue of like, dude, like, I need this job. I just can't quit this job because my parole officer is going to be like, why are you quitting this job? So there's something else like this dude, obviously has gone through. And so he's got to actually can't just call like he's got to go seeking something different to figure out how to solve the problem he came into, seeing some crazy dude in a coma, singing a song and going nuts. And I think Barnes did a good job in creating a new character who, I don't know. I mean, yeah, that last panel just kind of shows that he's, getting creeped out by dude on the ceiling with his neck all twisted, which I love this too. It's definitely a great one. But like, my guess is homie's dead, like he's, if you don't know anything else, he's going to be dead.
So you mentioned tropes earlier, and then you showed that, and then now we look at that panel. I mean, that's such a common. I don't know about common, but the whole head turned around thing.
Yeah,
I mean that's a
goes back to the Exorcist,
big horror thing, and even going back to where is he at? Bloody footprints in the middle, like all of a sudden in the middle of the hallway, like bloody bare feet. That's freaking crazy. Got a, here's comatose dude all with like blood all around him. So he does a really good job of taking those horror tropes and really like hitting you with them.
Right.
But they don't feel cliche. You know what I mean? It's a trope and cliche. Are they same?
It's
whatever. They don't really feel cliche. They're just useful tools.
Yeah. No, and he
does a really good job of that.
And really puts it out there. And that's why like this probably would have felt not as good if he didn't bring that character development of the janitor dude. If he just introduced some janitors mopping up some stuff, had a couple of the footprints and just navigated him into this crazy room and he ran away because he's scared, I don't think it would have held as much impact as when he's sitting here talking to himself. Okay, so right here he says, if I wasn't on work release, I would have got my ass up out of here a long time ago. Like, he's talking, he's dialoguing into the story, whether he's a pertinent character that's going to stick around or if he's just going to die in the next panel. It doesn't matter. And I love when writers can do that because you get sold into every character that you meet enough to, if they do happen to die or if they do happen to, be the hero, it kind of like just ties you all together with everybody you meet. So you don't really know until you go to that next chapter in the book or whatever it might be to find out like who they were. And I love it when writers, so that way you don't just, they obviously didn't give any background to this dude, so that means he's probably dead or he's just not going to be play any kind of part. So it kind of is boring in a sense.
Yeah, he's not the red shirt ensign from Star Trek, right?
Exactly.
All the red shirts. It goes back to, I think, like I was saying earlier, Rodney Barnes knows how to write. I mean, he's not just a comic book writer. He's written TV shows, movie. I mean, he's a professional writer beyond just comics.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a trick where you're talking about, where you get invested in these minor characters. Are they minor? Are they just coming through? You know who else does that is Stephen King. Like, he'll spend entire chapters getting you into a dude, like, oh man, I feel this guy, and all of a sudden, like, it makes their death that much more bigger, right? Yeah. Not just a death, but it's you feel the loss more.
Not that I was a big fan, to be honest, but the movie Scream, right? So Scream had a very well-known actress at the very beginning of the movie that we all knew. From all of her other movies, everything, we're like, oh my gosh, she's in this. Like, this is cool. And, but what did they do during like the first 5 minutes? They kill her off. And though, as much as I didn't really like Scream itself, that I enjoyed, because everybody's invested in that character, thinking she's going to play this big part throughout the whole movie. Well, they didn't have to build up all this character development towards her, because we already had that, just knowing who she was. And so they were able to do this. So that's kind of the same thing what they do in what Barnes does in a lot of his writing and whatnot. And I think it's a genius way to do it, because it keeps you on your toes constantly, not knowing who's important, who's not important, how things are going to play out or not. And
it's more impactful, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
it's not 100%. Just a death. And that's like Marvel movies, you'll see a lot of faceless people just die, and okay, right? That's just another one. But this one, you get emotionally invested.
Or wait, what was that movie? Is a Disney movie that was ranked the most violent movie of all times because it had the most deaths in it, and it was Mulan. So like the Mulan.
Killing the Mongols or the Huns.
I guess because there's more deaths in that movie than any other movie ever made, based on what it was. And of course we didn't care, because it all happened so quick, and we didn't have any connections to any of the characters, and it was just kind of like whatever. But I think, was it A Thin Red Line? Because Saving Private Ryan did a good job, but A Thin Red Line, they really go into character development for everyone in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that just helped move the story along that much more.
It makes you emotionally invested in the characters and the story. And so even if it's just somebody who dies on the next page, you're like, oh, damn.
Yeah.
Right? It's a big deal.
It's like they actually made a point to give everybody a face, no matter who it was.
Right.
And I think
he does a good job of that.
Yeah.
And the Elysium Gardens, that, like, again, the another one which is a backup story in, I think, the final 6 or 8, whatever, of the Philadelphias. It's a backup story in there. And he's continuing that. That one's got really good characterization of that one as well. Really driven by that. I'm gonna have to
go back and check out all the other Philadelphias again. I'm gonna have to go.
It's a good series, bro.
Go dig into those again.
I want to show this panel. This panel I thought was creepy too, man. This bloody wall art,
dude. I remember looking at that for like
fucking crazy
10 minutes. Like, what am I looking at? What, like, that was a super. I'm gonna go to it again, because it doesn't explain it. It just is like, hey, this is what happened.
Right.
Go to it.
And it's not a symbol, right? Like, it's not some creepy symbol or word. It's a very striking and odd picture. And not even just a horse head dude, but like, he's got his where's it at? Yeah, I mean, it's got the like, this horse head dude's like penis freaking hanging down there.
Right.
Like, it's profane, like right? Even.
Yeah, it's like this interesting pictograph, I guess would be the word of source. And like, I wonder where that's going to tie in down the road, or if it's just some thing. But I think it's funny how the dude was even like, ask me this is gang related, some kind of MS-13, like kind of, which is funny, because I wouldn't doubt, like, some of these very violent gangs would do something like that just to be, creepy and crazy. But I mean, it makes sense. Like, it's insane. But talking about just single panels, and then I'm going to get to John's comment that he just did. But one of these single panels that, like, I don't know if anybody else picked up on, but okay, it's on this page here. But so when you're drawing, when we're creating things, you don't put stuff in that you don't want to be shown. So when we're looking at this, all this stuff going on, but this one simple little panel in blue, this creepy little hand, some applauded when he's talking about all the weird shit that, the demons do. But talk about like the most ominous, creepy panel of the entire book. Because it's so subtle, so small, and so just like, what? Like that one blew me away. Because again, like, that still took time to draw, to create, to put in this book. And they did it for a reason, to kind of build your emotion up in some weird, creepy way of showing what's about to happen. But
well, especially on that page, because every other panel is people just going about their business.
Yeah.
And then you just have that one panel of some creep. And you know that business is about to get destroyed.
Dude.
And it ties in too with the demon words that he's talking in the dialogue boxes. Those are pretty profound words in there. Those are pretty hard hitting,
dude.
As he's going through there.
So John brings up, as a minor of a character, he was still vital because he opened up the story more by looking for an explanation and someone to talk to about what he experienced, and ends up finding Nita's blog online. No, absolutely, John. That's exactly what we're.
Yeah. He establishes what the blog's about.
Yes, it was one of those things where we needed him to bring that up and put it out there. But it was good. But I know I've read book 2 already, and I'm assuming you have too, Mark. Brought that up. So I'm interested to read it again, actually, but I'm really excited for issue 3 to finally come out too, because I want to see even where it goes even deeper. But if you guys haven't read, I don't know if John or Caitlin or Sheespawn, if you're still here, and Sheena, if you guys have read book 2 yet or not. That's why we don't want to spoil anything here. But if you guys did read this, are you excited to read book 2? There they are. Super cool.
I love these like Norman Rockwell covers they're doing.
No, it's funny you bring that up, because I was just saying that to a friend the other day. I was like, dude, issue 1, because I was trying to get him into reading this and get him, like, and he's an art fan. I'm like, it's Norman Rockwell. And he was, this is like horror Norman Rockwell, which is genius for this, because what was Norman Rockwell's like artistic styling? It was like Americana. Everything is cool. It's all fun. We're like here with our family. But then we know that we have our dark side as well. And so what would it be like to do a Norman Rockwell with the dark side? And there it is. It's insane. But
what I think, I think the best horror takes your normal, everyday, casual stuff and subverts it. Just like The Birds, the movie The Birds, right?
Oh my gosh, dude, amazing!
But it's taking something normal. You see the flock, and they're just subverting what is a normal, everyday occurrence and making it, making it twisted and not normal, right?
Yeah, no, and see, The Birds to me was never really a horror, because it was a comedy for me, but it was such a good horror comedy in my opinion. But I think it was because Tom Hanks is such a great part in that. But
Birds from Alfred Hitchcock.
Oh, The Birds.
I
heard Burbs, and so I was thinking of Tom Hanks movie, which was a horror, but it was a comedy horror.
I love that one too.
Alfred Hitchcock. He was the mastermind of horror.
Even Rear Window, right? I mean, it's normal. You look out your window and you see something going on, but it takes some normal, everyday occurrence and just twists it.
Yeah, and he wrote the book literally on how to not just do like horror movies, but to give the idea to a story, to a book, to what it is, especially when it comes into the context of what he was famous for. Like, if you're going to put something in a movie, make sure that thing is used. So if you show like a knife sitting on a tabletop somewhere, that thing better be used like 20 minutes from now. Because if not, there's no point that should have been in that scene in the first place. So it should have been cut out. And kind of like going into that idea where we just looked at that dude's hand, that creepy little scene, it needs to lead to somewhere. And it did. It led to him coming into this office and annihilating and murdering people that just were going about their everyday life. And that was just, it's not basic. It's fine tuning the major points on how to do horror and do horror well, or any story well on that level. Caitlin pops in and says something too. I think comics, even mainstream, have really been leaning into the art to benefit the horror themes without just making it overly gory. And it's been really cool to see. The imagery is paying off. No, absolutely. And it's actually interesting to see lately a lot of new horror stuff coming out. I know in the indies, it's always kind of been there on some level, but for some reason, I'm noticing across the board right now, horror's coming up. I mean, DC's pulling it out of their butt,
they are.
With their DC horror runs of The Conjuring to Soul Plumber to even DC versus Vampires, bringing that back and kind of like showing it a different light to it, and some of the other aspects of it. I feel like there's this whole new horror genre that's just starting to come up and start over again, I guess is the right way to say it. But I'm enjoying it. And I'm not even a giant fan of reading comic horror necessarily. I do enjoy, it's funny because I get a lot of slack from some friends of mine. I enjoy Stephen King on some level, but I've always been more of a Dean Koontz fan personally. I just like his writing a little bit different. It's a different style and how he does it and takes you on a different path and journey. But those are typically the type of horror that I would prefer to read, not so much in my comics all the time. But I if this is how it's going to be in the future, I'm liking where they're taking it. Let's see, there is motive behind his killing and massacres of people, which is what I like about the story.
Right.
As opposed to just mindless, killing. It doesn't really mean anything. Mainstream is for sure trying to copy indie to make up for all the people trying. Yep, true, Caitlin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I enjoy indie stories far more than your big two or whatever.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about issue 2 at all?
I didn't want to get in that just because those that haven't read yet and are seeing this because it's still out now. Obviously, it's still for sale. And I didn't want to be that dude that spoils things without people first warning and whatnot.
That latest comment from John, Collect Them All or Die Trying, where he said there's motive behind his killing and massacres of people, which is what he likes. And issue 2 really starts cementing really why this is going on, why the stuff we see in issue 1 is going on.
Well, let me ask this real quick. I know John, Caitlin, and at least you were here. I think Dakota's still around. Sheena still might be. But should I add like issue 2 and maybe issue 3 onto January's vote for the book club? And we can just kind of do a continuation of Nita Hawes for January? And we can do a 2 and 3 possibly in January? What is that? Does that sound like a possibility? What do you think, Mark?
Whether we do Nita Hawes or not, obviously I'm a big fan of the Nita Hawes, so yay. But I would like to see these discussions continue beyond a first issue a little bit. Not just dipping our toe in, but kind of actually getting into the pool a little bit more, so we can discuss how things open up and that kind of thing.
Okay, John saying I love continuity. Caitlin saying yeah, that'd be cool. So all right, well then you know what? I'm just gonna do it. Let's just do for January. We're gonna do issue 2 and 3, so that way we can get more into it, and then maybe going forward, what we'll do is do an issue 1 and 2 kind of thing. Like we'll do a couple issues, unless it's a one shot. If we decide on a book that's gonna be a one shot, obviously that's gonna be a little bit different. But one shots have a little bit more depth to them anyway, so it'd be more so. But yeah, that'll be cool. I got to double check to see when issue 3 actually comes out. Actually, let me pull up.
Because 2 is out right now.
Yeah, 2 is definitely out. I know I've already put in my pre-orders for 3, but let me double check the actual date that see when FOC is as well in case I need to get some more in. But
while you're looking that up, I'll just, for anybody listening who really liked Rodney Barnes' writing, do check out his Substack. He's got several, like he's got the Johnny Gallen and the Elysium Gardens that he's publishing on there, but the first issue or 2 of each of those series are free on his Substack. So you can kind of check out and get a little bit more of this world that he's creating here without even making a commitment to anything.
okay, I just found it. So issue 3 comes out. Let me see. I should have enough. So issue 3 is coming out on the 5th, January 5th. And dude, I need to share this screen real quick. See if I can get that in here. You guys see that?
Oh yeah.
Look at this cover, yo. Like that. This is I think this is dude.
Yes.
So that's cover 3A, and then we've got.
Do they have the Rockwell
this
one?
Is
oh yeah.
3B. Yeah. This one's super cool. Let me bring this up a little bit more. Of course, it's okay. Rolling dice out there with the spider webs on them.
Spiders on them.
Super cool.
That's got to be Jason, right? The little brother.
I think so. And then, that goes into another book completely. So it looks like those 2 covers, for the most part, are going to be.
Ooh, there's that
issue 3
right there. That cover A for 4 looks freaking crazy too, man.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, that is twisted.
Super, dude. That head, skull, weird demon horns, nuts. The Rockwell one too. I'm just gonna pull this one up for issue 5. Look how cool this one is. She's ready for it. Yeah, she's ready for it.
Oh, man. That's cool. I like that, man. Her and Erica Slaughter ought to hook up.
Right, dude. If they merge together to do something,
yeah,
super cool. But yeah, so I guess that's we'll do that for let's see. For next month, we'll do 2 and 3, and since that comes out on the 5th, we can have the next one around probably around the same time, 17th, 18th or so. Give us time to get in both books, and then maybe we'll go in the future kind of do more than just one small little issue to get a little bit more impactful and more in depth on it. But I mean, is there anything else that you want to sum up real quick on at least this first issue? I love it. Too.
I think, he just is a really good. It's just a good series, man.
It has, yeah. It's gonna be.
And this first issue, it feels like you said, and some Minecraft too, a little bit disconnected because there's a number of pieces going on that don't feel like they're together. But issue 2 does bring that all together.
Yeah, and I think that's if you're new to this, didn't read Philadelphia, you just jumped into this right off the bat. I think this first issue is going to get you a little bit confused, and so definitely stick out for number 2, and it will help merge some of together and solidify you, unless you want to go through and dive back into the others. But
and if you haven't read Philadelphia, absolutely check out. Probably one of the best book, man. Right. One of the best top books of the past year.
All right. Well, it's 6:24. Almost got an hour in here. I'm going to switch to this other screen, and I'm going to do the little the wheel of fortune here to see who gets to win next month's book. You got it this month, Mark, so maybe you'll get it again. Let's shuffle this. I always do that. I always click on the wrong screen. I'm going to shuffle it up a few times here to see, I don't know, how many times is that, like 15? And I'm going to click to spin it and see who snags up that book.
No whammies, no whammies.
Right? Oh, John, you were so close, but Kat Sato got it. All right, Katz, if you're in here, which I don't think you are, but if you catch this on the rewind, I will be shooting you a DM to let you know what you have won and what you're going to get. But there it is. So brilliant.
Congratulations.
Right? All these screens open, man. Don't look at my desktop. It's filled with all kinds of stuff. Such a clutterbug here. But other than that, I want to wish everybody a happy Sunday evening and a Merry Christmas to all. And hopefully you guys are having a great holiday as well. But we're going to sign off for now, and we'll catch you at the next Coffee and Comic Book Club. Check Mark out here on YouTube, Flip Through Comics, and also on Instagram at Flip Through Comics. I'm also collecting all that I try. And thanks for stopping by. Caitlin, thanks for coming in. Sheena, thank you for being here. Dakota, everybody else that was in the chat, everybody else part of the book club. Stay positive and stay caffeinated. And we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks again, Mark.
Absolutely.